I'm Big Ben from the Angry Dad podcast, B to the fourth power, which means Big Bad Ben Bulman. If you're a math geek, you know what I'm talking about.
Very cool, very cool. And so podcasting is just such a big thing, Matt. Honestly, everybody I think has gone to Guitar Center or has gone to like Radio Shack, if those even still exist, and they see the podcasting equipment and they're like, I want to be the next Joe Rogan, you know? But within 1 or 2 episodes, you're like, where's my massive audience? Like, where is it? You know, and they just give up. And then, you know, all that equipment just goes into the closet. How long have you been podcasting for?
Shit, I've been podcasting for almost 4 years now. You know what I'm saying? Wow. 4 years long. Started off with one, and then, you know, it just slowly started changing into a handful of podcasts that I'm running now.
Oh, so there's more than one.
Yeah, because I have Angry Dad podcast. I do one with my wife called I Married a Bigfoot. And then I also do one where it's your dad's action movies, because I grew up in the 80s. I love Van Damme, Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris, Dolph Lundgren. These are action stars that are just kind of the epitome of what action movies are. And I grew up loving them, watching them, seeing those physiques, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian. That's what got me started in my fitness journey. And, you know, I just wanted to pay a little homage to those movies.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, those movies really, I think they were just a driving force in the 80s and beyond. They're classics. And, you know, back then there wasn't a lot of like muscular guys like that. I mean, like most of the rock stars, I mean, I love 80s music and early 90s, that particular genre right there. But I mean, you know, really, honestly, there weren't that many jack guys. I mean, in the punk scene, there was a few like Henry Rollins,
yeah,
you know, but I mean, like you're talking mainstream, like, you know, Bret Michaels is jack, but not so much. Vince Neil, no. Stephen Pierce, you know, I mean, they were basically like skinny twiggy guys, you know what I mean? And so to see like jack guys, I mean, that was almost unheard of, you know, but in the movies though, you could see it. I mean, Chuck Norris, Sylvester Stallone, these guys, they were pretty shredded. Dolph Lundgren, I mean, he could have been a bodybuilder in his day.
Yeah, easily. You know what I'm saying? All these guys are martial artists. All these guys had specialties. And like I said, it's just one of those things that when you see as a kid, you see as a young man, like, is that obtainable? And it was, you know what I'm saying? I remember the first time I got my hands on a Muscle and Fitness, that first time I got my hands on just a Flex, and, you know, just reading the articles in there, like, this is actually achievable. You know what I'm saying? Well, flipping articles, looking at supplements, all those things, you know, that was like my starting point there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, with Angry Dad podcast, you know, just the metamorphosis of creating the other podcasts just were natural.
Yeah, I almost feel, you know, like I almost feel bad for like the young people today, because they really don't appreciate magazines. I mean, they're still around. There's just something about buying a magazine, like holding it, getting it autographed, framing it. I mean, the same thing with comic books and basketball cards, baseball cards. But I know like we have all this like innovation now, but the one good thing though about innovation with podcasting though is that, you know, you can like basically, it's almost like you can like skip the radio station. You don't have to go through all the politics. I mean, you still have to be popular. That's the thing too, that I always tell people. It's like, you know, what's good today would have been good 20 years ago. If you're popular now, you're popular then, but there's so much red tape that you get to bypass, you know, and you don't have a program director telling you, well, you can't say this, or we got to bleep you for this. So there are some good and bad things about, you know, technology.
Oh yeah, and you know, and with podcasting, you know, for like I said, for the first, you know, few podcasts, the few hundred, you know what I'm saying? The one thing is you can't listen or check stats. All you can do is just keep producing, because content is key. If you want to become popular in the game, well, guess what? Being consistent, having a structured time, and just not doing it willy-nilly really sets the standard, because people love to tune in. People like, this is the exact day this podcast comes out, and this is the exact day I listen to it. Or like you put out a few, because I've had a few people like, look, I stack your podcast up all week, and then I listen to them on Saturday, or I listen to them my last day of work on Friday, and you know, it gets me through my work week. And you know, those are the key things. You know, like with podcasting, it's getting yourself out there. It's not just finding a niche, because everybody does everything. The main thing to focus on is just creating content and creating quality. You know what I'm saying? Quality is better than quantity, because, you know, if your podcast sounds like shit, well, guess what? No one's going to really care. You know, it took me a long time to get my podcast just dialed in enough to where it sounds great. And I started off with just a $2 mic off of Amazon plugged into my phone. And that's all I did for the start, because I literally just had an app on my phone. I would hit record and then go. And then eventually, you know, I got a laptop. I bought a regular mic that plugs right into the laptop, USB, and the quality is perfect. It's great for what I'm doing because it's not outrageous. It doesn't cost a lot, and you know, it's maintainable. You know what I'm saying? I'm not spending an arm and a leg. You know, I literally sit down at my desk, back to the wall, and you know, I let my you know my artistry come out through
Right.
verbal technique. You know.
No, I totally. And the thing too is it has to be something that you enjoy, and obviously you enjoy this. You know, let's see here. And don't be afraid to take a break. So I want to break myself. You don't want to bring yourself out. Yeah, because that's the thing too. I mean, I think that applies to podcasting, writing, and competing as well. I mean, you've got competitors that just, like on my last interview here with Mitch Jones, you know, he took a 2-year break from the stage just to build and get better. But some people just cannot do that. Like it's almost like, almost even more so like with workouts. Like they've got to work out 7 days a week. They can't take a day off. So yeah, I think that's very, very important. That's a really good comment there from Wicked Methods. But yeah, and the other thing too is that I really like what you said too about, you know, I like to say 8 or 9 or 10, you know, but really honestly, you've got to put out hundreds almost, and you can't re-listen to yourself, and you definitely can't go to stats, because the stats, I mean, I think like the stats might even make you like, might totally turn you off. You might like think you're talking to two people.
Yeah, exactly. Really detour you, to really put a stick in the mud and not make you want to continue. But the thing is constantly continuing. You know, those two people that are listening, well, guess what? They're spreading their word, just like how we do with Black Soul Labs. Each of us make a post, each of us create it, and guess what? One at a time, we start picking off the population, and next thing you know, everybody's on board. And that's how it works, you know. And one of the things too is a lot of people miss out is when you make a post, when you create a post and you're advertising yourself, well, guess what? Anything that involves your post, hashtags are key. I cannot stress that enough, because hashtags are more for the algorithm. And if you want your stuff to be seen, then guess what? If you don't add those hashtags, you don't add those keywords, those sentences in your podcast, in your titles, in your notes, or in the detailed description, well, guess what? It'll literally get lost in translation with the billions of people that are online right now. You know what I'm saying? You have to really fine tune what you do, and really pay attention. There's so many things. You can watch so many YouTube videos on how to figure out how to get yourself out there. And it's constantly working on that. You know what I'm saying? You really have to find your zone. And once you find your zone, you just, you know, that's how I created the following that I have, is just constantly, you know, content, and making sure that, you know, I make it very reachable and very, very, you know, findable for those people.
Right. No, and I think too, like, you know, you had mentioned the algorithm and the various hoops you have to jump through. You know, a lot of other people would say, well, you know, now like I'm shadow banned, or now it's like, you know, you can only reach so many people. But at the same time, like it'll all work out in the end. You know what I mean? Even though it may seem like certain social media platforms are making it next to impossible for you, just keep putting it out. And like you said, be accessible. Like I don't really post that much on Twitter, but I always make sure to post every so often to break like the silence, because even if I'm only getting like 50 views, 100 views, when you add it all up, that's what creates the big numbers. It may not be, you know, and the same thing with residual views too. Like you might only get like 20 views, 50 views, 100 views for the week, but that same video, you come back a year later and look at it, you've got 3,000 views there. I mean, that's some numbers, you know, 3,000. So compared to 50.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that. And I think what you also said too, that I really like, is that it's also the quality. As you put out more content, your quality keeps improving more and more. You know, other people might say, well, I'm going to take a whole year to learn it. That's okay too. But like you also learn through, you know, the process.
Exactly. You know, you have to learn through the process, because if you don't work it out, if you don't sit there and talk and get used to speaking, because what ends up happening a lot of times is people's like, okay, or they use these pause words to give them a second to think. And the thing is by training yourself and talking, you can actually speak more fluently and more phonetically and sound more confident without saying these key words that break up sentences, because then you don't sound sure, you don't sound like yourself, and you just, because you're not used to it, you know what I'm saying, that you just keep chopping it up in the same way. So it almost makes it sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So just by, like you said, working it out, practicing, you know, technique, training, speaking, and being more comfortable, being more okay, because a lot of times we're speaking into cameras And because we're speaking to cameras, there's no one there. But you want to be able to have that comfortability so you can just literally have public speaking. You know what I'm saying? Getting that public speaking down really helps out.
No, definitely. And Kim Fedasine says, you know, people look at a photo once but view video several times, and that's true. And the other thing too about podcasts is that, you know, like let's say you have an hour-long podcast, people may not listen to that whole hour at once. They might listen to 15 minutes now, 15 minutes on the ride to work. But that's actually even better, because instead of getting one view, you're getting like 4 or 5. And people are really, like, their attention span is perfect, because you listen to something for 15 minutes or you listen to an hour-long show over the course of 4 or 5 visits, you're really going to retain a lot of that. The other good thing, too, about podcasts and radio as well, because I'm a big fan of radio, while you're driving, yeah, I guess you could look at a video. You could also crash into a wall. But, like, audio is perfect for driving, because your eyes are focused on the road, but you're at the same time being entertained audibly. And so that's why I think, you know, no matter how high-tech these cars get, even to the point where they're driving themselves, and maybe like the Jetsons, one day they'll be in space, there's always going to be a place for radio, because, you know what I mean? Like, your eyes are not compromised with radio. And plus, it's kind of like a book. The last thing I'll say, it's kind of like a book. Like every time I read a book, like, the book is always usually better than the movie, because I feel like my imagination is always that much better. I don't care how high tech the movie is, my mind is always going to be the best, you know. So there's a bit of a imagination factor, I think, with a podcast as well for the listener.
Oh yeah, no, there's a much better, because like I said, I do both. I actually post on IGTV, I post on YouTube, and then I spread the video everywhere. I hit every social media. But the thing is
that's smart.
Because one of the things is, because I'm so animated when I'm speaking, I actually had a lot of people reach out to me like, man, I really wish I could see what your face looks like when you're
right.
And I'm like, well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw it out there too. So, you know,
sure.
it breaks it up so people can listen. And one of the things too is about podcasting is picking a platform, because most platforms for podcasts actually let you distribute through them. You know what I'm saying? There, for anyone interested, Anchor, you can start a podcast there for free. You literally just download the app, set up the website, and then that's it. It's totally free, nothing out of pocket. But it's not as nice or streamlined as other podcasts. Like I use Spreaker. Spreaker actually, well, once you post it to Spreaker, it'll instantly go to every site that's out there that's available for podcasting, and it even sends it to YouTube if you just want to send an audio version of it. But I usually don't send it like that, because I edit the video. After I edit the video, then I post my own videos with my ads and everything in it for YouTube. But the thing is finding a platform that's in your budget and you can actually, you know, produce it out there. And once you throw it out there, it's out there forever.
Right. No, that's the thing. I mean, like, and Spreaker's really cool. Like, I listen to a few podcasts on Spreaker that are actually on YouTube, which is interesting to listen to a podcast, but I do. There's other options. There's Spotify, SoundCloud, but a lot of them will want you to pay. And you pay as you go. Like if you have 100 followers, you pay this, but if you have 1,000, you pay that, because they're actually kind of like selling you bandwidth as well in the process. So, and they're also selling you storage. Yeah. So, like, if you have, you know, 20, 30 episodes, now you got to like pay to like park them somewhere, you know. So I can totally echo what you're saying. It's important to also like stay within your means as well. You don't want to go broke doing this, because it may be a while till you get a sponsor, if at all ever. Some people never want to sponsor because they don't ever want to compromise like what it is they're doing. Like, a sponsor might tell you, like, I'm blessed to have Black Swan and Titan, because they don't, like, we're all on the same page with regards to fitness. But, you know, some sponsors might be like, can you hold back a little bit? Can you, like, maybe, like, you know, go that way a little bit or that way? And people may not like that with their creative control, you know?
Yeah. So with a lot of sponsors that I had that, you know, I had to seek out, talk with them and all this stuff. But the thing is I always send them my show. I'm like, look, listen to what I do, because this is all that you're going to get from me. You know, I get quite a bit of listens, and with those amount of listens, it's give me the ability just to keep my content the way I keep it. You know what I'm saying? Because it is not work safe. That's how I always like to present it.
Right. And the thing is, like, I think as you grow an audience, they're going to come to expect certain things, like from the Angry Dad podcast or the other podcasts that you're involved with. It's kind of like the Ramones. Like, I love music. Yeah. And the Ramones are like, you know, I mean, if you like the Sex Pistols, the Clash, whatever, Iggy Pop, there'd be none of that without the Ramones. They like started it all. They get no credit, but they started all. But they did one album like in the 80s that was kind of like a studio album, like a mainstream album. But none of their fans bought it. Like, they just like were like, no. And the thing is that, like, if your audience, it could just be one episode out of 100, but that one episode, if it's not, you know, they're not good, and they'll even make it known to you that they don't approve. So and that's important with sponsors too. Like you said, like you tell the sponsor, look, this is what I do. This is what you're going to get. Don't ask me to let, you know what I mean? So that's
Exactly.
important.
Yeah, no, it is very important. You know, and like I said, I love podcasting. I love doing it. You know, but actually a few years ago, I was at my biggest. I was about almost 300 pounds, jacked and peeled when I first started my fitness thing. And then I ended up getting hurt. I got actually got hit by a forklift and got incapacitated for a while. So it really fucked me up. So I couldn't train the way I was, but just the work ethic that I learned from bodybuilding and training and just being consistent, it transitions to everything else easily, but it transitioned to the podcast easily because I was able to dedicate the majority of my time the way I was at that time to create this community that I've gotten. And it's just so crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like most people think fitness is only this thing. It's like, no, it really transitions into every other aspect of your life. You know what I'm saying? When you get that focus and you learn and you love what you do, it'll 100% change what's going on.
No, absolutely. And again, if and like Omni Muscle says, not to sugarcoat stuff. And I'm a big believer in that too. Like, I mean, I think that like if somebody only knows success, they know no obstacles, they know no pitfalls, they know no disappointment. Hey man, that's awesome. Congrats. You have a fantastic life. But most people's life is not like that. So if you get hit by a forklift or you like, you know, slip at work or you don't get the promotion you want, and in fact, you get fired on top of that, if you can share that, because that's the thing too, like how much is too much? What do you share? What don't you share? But I feel like if you look at Howard Stern, I mean, Howard Stern got in a lot of trouble with his wife, Beth, because he would share too much. And that actually ended their marriage, I think, in some ways. But the thing is, there's no filter with Howard.
Yeah, no filter.
As a result, he's become the biggest thing in radio since I don't know what. But like, you don't have to go that far, but it really depends how much you want to share. I feel like the more you share, I feel like the more you share, the narrower the gap is between the podcaster and the audience. It's almost like it's not. There's no gap. You know.
Yeah, that relatability is there because what it is, you know, and one thing I always show is like I've been through so many things. I've been through divorce. I've been through hurt. I've been through law. I've been through work situations. I've dealing with all kinds of life situations. The thing is, I always throw it out there because I try to show people if I can make it, if I lost everything, gained everything, lost everything again, gained it all back, it's just because people don't think other people are going through it. A lot of times people forget that, you know, there's other people going through the same situations. And the thing is like with the podcast is giving that advice, let you know that everyone has a chance, everyone has a will, everyone has a way. You can make it. It's never the end. It's never rock bottom. Because guess what? Rome wasn't built in a day. And guess what? It takes a long time to build an empire. And you can easily restart. You can always have that regain, that redo. There's no stopping as long as you're willing to keep it up and to never quit. You know, that's the majority of my podcast is letting people is awakening that mind to understand that you got to see it all. There's a bigger picture. Shit happens for a reason, but the thing is that reason's for you to get better, bigger, and stronger.
Definitely. Welcome back, Wicked Methods. But yeah, but that's the thing too, and like everything you said, right, is very powerful and makes for a hell of a pep talk. But unless you've actually like failed at life and tasted that bitterness, that's all it is. But when you've actually like experienced it, like, I mean, to a lot of people, especially to myself, of course I'm happy whenever somebody reaches that milestone, whenever they reach that goal, but it's the process of reaching it, to me, that's so much more powerful than actually reaching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, like I said, I share quite a bit of my life like that, because people need to see that things are overcome. You can overcome things, but the thing is to understand that everyone does it their own way, and you need to see that. Like I always talk about pointing in the direction. I can show you this is where you stopped. Well, guess what? That's the direction you need to go to. Forward is always the motion. And when you keep going forward, guess what? You'll find the path. And when you find that path, it takes you to glory. It takes you to victory. It takes you to the promised land. Because guess what? As long as you keep trucking, you keep moving, you don't stop, bam! You fucking survived, you made it, and you've hit the promised land. And guess what? You are exactly where you need to be.
Exactly. No, 100%, 100%. If you're alive, you know, you're above ground, you know, there's always a will, there's a way you can do it. So how would you describe like your training style? Like what, like, cause I look at you, I mean, you in your pictures, you look pretty jacked,
Oh, yeah.
but like more so than absolutely, but more so than muscular defined and all that, you look like hella strong. Like,
Yeah.
how do you lift in the gym?
Well, I do heavy and heavy sets. Like a lot of people don't train as hard. Like I'm always there to push past every limit. Every set, I'm usually doing about 20 reps, like 4 to 5, sometimes even 6 sets. I will not stop until I feel it. You know what I'm saying? If my muscle's not shaking after a set, I didn't do enough. And I will do as much weight as I can possibly do every set. And that's the only way you create that shock. You create that rhythm in your muscle, because mind muscle connection is so important to me that if I don't hit it out, I feel like I failed. I feel like if I'm just there going through the motions, it makes me sick to my stomach. Like I said, there's reasons why I use Blackstone Labs. The pre-workouts, the pump, the NO, the Parapharma, the Viper, all these things help create muscle flow and blood flow into my muscles, and it creates such a pump. If my skin is not ripping, I just didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I go heavy and hard. But the thing is I always practice safe sets. I cannot stress that enough. Like I will push myself, but I know when to throttle back, because I've hurt myself more than enough times to be like, okay, guess what? I pushed is absolutely. I can do 120s, but guess what? I'm not hitting the 150s today. Or I can hit the 140s, but I'm not hitting the 150s. You know what I'm saying? When I'm putting up these dumbbells, it's to really hit it correctly. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, anybody can just pump weight, but it takes technique, it takes style, it takes finesse to be able to actually contract when you have heavy load on top of you or under you, you know?
No, absolutely. I was only agreeing because when you said you practice safe sets, it's not almost sounded like you said you practice safe sex, but they're both good. Yeah, yeah, they're both good. But no, it makes sense though, because honestly, like I was thinking when you were telling the story, I have like a very illustrative mind, but I was almost thinking like you have Arnold sitting here, you have Mike Mentzer sitting here, because you're talking about volume, but you're also talking about, training to failure with high poundages.
Yeah.
And so you're basically doing what each of these guys did, but you're doing it together. But on top of that, you're also, practicing safe sets, which is important because like you've been injured, so you know what that feels like. And so again, I'm not saying that only the people that have been injured know this, but I think the people that have been injured know it better.
Yeah.
You know the good pain, and you know the bad pain, exactly. And you know when to pull back, and that's very, very important.
And one of the other things that's important too is legs. If without strong legs, big hamstrings. I'm a hamstring man. I train my hamstrings to almost like I cry, because and they'll cramp while I'm even doing leg extensions, leg curls, and squats, because the bigger the hamstring, the bigger the quad. But the thing is those bigger hamstrings help support so much more weight when you have those stability stands, because a lot of people don't. And it's what drives me nuts is I always point my feet forward, shoulder width apart, slightly bent in the knee, and that's the stance for every exercise you do, whether you're doing arms, shoulders, back. You know what I'm saying? You have the shoulder width apart, feet straight, feet completely planted and dedicated. And when you have those strong legs to support that, guess what? Everything else will exponentially just explode.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, there's really no exercise where like put your feet together. I mean, that's almost like illogical. So yeah, I mean, like that's great advice. And yeah, I mean, that core strength, I mean, that only the legs can provide, that stability that only the legs can provide. I mean, that's so important. I mean, it's the biggest muscle group, and then back is the second biggest. And I know you know that, but it's like so many people, put so much energy into chest, which is not a big muscle, shoulders, which are big, but they're not a huge muscle, and arms. I mean, a bicep and a tricep, I mean, those are definitely not big muscles. But these are the muscles that people, even abs, they're not big, but people really focus on these, like arms, abs, maybe chest, because that's what I guess they think, people want to see. But you're talking about the functionality of it and putting on the maximum numbers, and without strong legs and back, it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, you'll always be incomplete. You know what I'm saying? Your legs take so much training to get big, to get strong, and if you don't train them adequately, you're going to always be chicken legged out. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. Right. You're going to have a big upper body, but the thing is once you catch your legs up to your upper body, it's a whole different dimension. For those that want to compete, those who want to be on stage, well, guess what? They're not going to accept that when you're stepping into classic or you're stepping into heavyweights. You know what I'm saying? One of my main goals before I got was all I wanted to do was be a mass monster. I wanted to be 350 pounds, just completely pilled and fucking just, I'm 6'5". So being as tall as I am, it requires twice as much work to build muscle.
Oh
So
yeah, I'm 6'4", so yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, but it's interesting too, because again, we're like, there's just something about the front, like chest and arms, abs. There's something about the front that people just really like take to. And the same thing goes with legs. Everybody wants a teardrop, or they want the outer sweep. But your point is very well taken. The hamstrings are so important, and like they get like no love at all. I mean, like nobody trains hamstrings really, unless you're a bodybuilder or a power lifter and you really know better. But most average everyday lifters that just want to look good, they don't train hamstrings.
Oh.
And yet they're so important.
No, they like I said, I've always been hamstring dominant, stiff leg deadlifts, good mornings. You know what I'm saying? These are things that I always start off with before I even start, just to warm it up, just to get that blood in there. And then I might do a couple of leg extensions just to get the quads going before it goes heavy squats. You know what I'm saying? High bar, low bar, you know what I'm saying? Deadlifts, hex bar deadlifts. There's a reason why all these things, if you want big weight, you got to start there. Because by starting there, you know what I'm saying? It's just going to create so much of a better base. You know what I'm saying? Because you want that, basically we want an hourglass shape, and it's not achieved without doing legs.
Definitely. And I think it's refreshing too to hear you and to see you, to see what you've built. Because a lot of tall guys, like, they're like, all I can ever be is a men's physique competitor. I can never get size. And if I do get the size, it's going to be a lot of fat. And you're not fat. I mean, you've got a lot of muscle, and you're very strong, and you're 6'5".
Yeah, but it took years to put on that size. A lot of times people need to understand that muscle maturity only starts happening once you get to that good shredded hard physique, and then once you pound it even harder, that graininess that you want is there. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is if you're not moving heavy weight, you're never going to put on real true shape and hardness. But for that thick physique, all you can do is just pound it heavy and hard, but be safe about it.
Right. I still remember videos. I mean, I don't know if he was trolling, or I hope he was trolling, because it makes no sense. But like Lee Priest used to say, I lift more than guys like a foot taller than me. If you're a foot taller than me, you should be lifting a lot more. But that's nonsense. If you're taller, you should lift less, technically, because if you're a midget, no offense to our shorter friends, but if you're a midget, you have no range of motion. Your squat is like 6 inches. Your arm, you're not moving it at all. Whereas if you're a tall person with longer extremities, you have a lot more distance to carry this weight. So yeah, if you're bigger, you should, but I get it, because like, small man complex, you don't want to get outshined by a tall guy on top of that, but it is a lot harder if you're tall to squat, to deadlift, to do everything,
Yeah. When you got a 5-foot travel, you know what I'm saying? It requires so much more strength and focus to not fail, especially like when I'm benching, or lifting dumbbells, you know what I'm saying? Like with the guys that I train with, like they're moving like maybe less than a foot. And I got a 3-foot drop, and then I got to push the way back up to get a lockout.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, and I think squatting too is almost like, a lot of guys on the East Coast, they kind of knock guys on the West Coast because they don't really squat over there, and I know they do, but there's something about that. I don't know where you are exactly, but like the Northeast especially, I mean, all they got to do over there is train. It's so cold outside, I got nothing else to do. But the thing is, squatting is really, truly, that's old school. But I now they've got machines, and some people get the Smith machine, which is arguable if you're even moving the weight, because the pulleys are doing a lot of it. But real squatting is really kind of like a dying thing.
Nah, it's a dying thing, because people don't want to deal with a week long of, I'm stiff, I can't sit on the toilet, my legs throb, they hurt to touch, they hurt my pants being on them. But the thing is I love that. I used to always squat on Friday. Like Fridays was leg day. And the reason I'd always do it on Fridays, because I knew I wasn't going out for the weekend. I know I'm not doing anything. And so I got 2 days to rest, try to recover my legs, and then hopefully be okay for work on Monday.
Yeah, That's the thing. That's the thing. And then now, what about your nutrition? Like, how much food are you packing in there too? Because I would imagine to lift like this, you probably have to eat quite a bit.
Well, when I was at my biggest, I was eating, man, close to like 10 to 9,000 calories a day. I was eating about 6 pounds of meat, just between chicken breast, chicken thighs, and ground beef. And I would eat like a whole tub of rice the whole day. But like right now, just because I'm recovering from shoulder surgery, I switch off between almost like a low carb keto. And then when I start putting on size, then like I said, it's just rice and oatmeal with every meal. And heavy protein. Like even right now, I'm only doing a 1-to-1. I want to weigh about like almost 300 pounds, 320. So I try to keep it within that protein range. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a little more liberal with it right now. But when it's dedicated and hard, carbohydrates are through the roof, proteins through the roof, and it's just eating. I usually do maybe about, right now it's only about 4 to 5 meals. But when I'm really on it, I'm looking more like 6 to 8, and then trying to spread that meat out to almost like 2 pounds a meal.